Emily froze mid-sentence as she looked across the crowded New York courtroom, her eyes locking onto the familiar face of the opposing counsel. Addison Reed, the woman who had once whispered promises of forever in the quiet nights of their shared apartment, now stood there in a crisp gray suit, her auburn hair pulled back in a severe bun, representing the father in the Hargrove custody case. The air thickened with unspoken history, and Emily's heart hammered against her ribs as she realized this high-stakes battle for an 8-year-old boy's future could expose the lesbian secret they had buried 5 years ago. One wrong word, one slipped glance, and everything they had built, their partnerships, their reputations in the cutthroat legal world of Manhattan, would crumble. The judge called the session to order, and Emily forced her voice steady as she delivered her opening statement for Mrs. Hargrove, the mother fighting for sole custody after years of emotional neglect and financial manipulation by her soon-to-be ex-husband. Emily's firm had poured resources into this case because a win would seal her promotion to partner, the brass ring she had chased since law school. Across the aisle, Addison sat with the same composed posture Emily remembered from late-night study sessions at Columbia, but her blue eyes held a new edge, cold and calculating. Emily knew that look. It was the same one Addison had worn the night she chose a high-paying position at a rival firm over their plans to build a life together. The choice that had shattered their relationship and sent Emily spiraling into years of guarded solitude. As the morning dragged on, Emily watched Addison cross-examine the first witness, a therapist who had treated the Hargrove boy. Addison's questions were sharp, precise, designed to paint the mother as unstable, and the father as the stable provider with deep political connections that could influence judges and media alike. Every syllable felt like a personal jab, dredging up memories of how Addison had once defended Emily's dreams with the same fierce intelligence. Emily gripped her pen until her knuckles whitened, reminding herself that this was business, that the girl who had loved her through bar exams and family rejections was gone, replaced by a woman whose ambition knew no limits. The courtroom buzzed with tension as the judge called a brief recess, and Emily stepped into the marble hallway, her mind racing through every possible way this trial could destroy them both. She had not seen Addison in person since their breakup, though she had tracked her career from afar, the way one tracks an old wound that never quite heals. Addison had risen fast at her firm, landing clients with ties to City Hall and Wall Street, while Emily had stayed at a more ethical boutique practice, climbing slowly but surely. Now their paths collided here, in the most public arena possible, where every motion, every objection, carried the weight of their shared past. Emily leaned against the cool wall, breathing deeply, forcing the memories down. The late nights in their tiny walk-up apartment near campus, the way Addison's laugh had filled the room when they celebrated small victories, the quiet promises whispered under blankets that they would face the world together, even if it meant hiding their love from conservative families and judgmental professors. Those days felt like another lifetime, but the ache in Emily's chest proved they were not. When court resumed, Emily pushed forward with her own examination, her questions methodical and laced with subtle references to the father's documented absences and volatile temper. She avoided looking directly at Addison, but she could feel the other woman's gaze burning into her. By the time the judge adjourned for the day, the first cracks in the case had formed, and Emily knew the real battle was just beginning. Outside the courthouse, the autumn wind whipped through the financial district as Emily gathered her briefcase and headed toward the subway. She did not expect the voice that stopped her. "Emily." Addison's tone was low, professional, but carried the undercurrent of something deeper. She stood a few feet away, her expression unreadable under the streetlights. "We need to talk. Off the record." Emily's stomach tightened. Talking was dangerous. Talking meant remembering why she had once been willing to risk everything for this woman. But refusing could signal weakness to the firm partners who were already watching her every move. She nodded once, curtly. "Fine. But not here." They walked in silence to a small coffee shop 2 blocks away, the kind of neutral ground where lawyers met to negotiate without witnesses. Sitting across from each other at a corner table, the familiarity hit Emily like a wave. Addison's hands, still elegant and expressive, wrapped around her mug the same way they had during countless all-nighters. "This case is going to get ugly," Addison said quietly, her eyes meeting Emily's for the first time without the courtroom mask. "For both of us." Emily set her jaw. "It already is." The words hung between them, heavy with everything they could not say aloud. The secret they had protected for years now sat like a live grenade on the table between them. And neither knew who would pull the pin first. The coffee shop's hum of conversations faded into background noise as Emily studied Addison's face, searching for any trace of the woman she had loved. The years had sharpened Addison's features, adding lines of stress around her eyes that spoke of late nights and high-pressure deals. Emily wondered if those same years had left similar marks on her own face, the price of climbing the ladder alone after their split. "You know what this case means for me," Emily said, keeping her voice low. "Partner track is on the line. My firm expects a win, and they don't care how I get it." Addison leaned forward slightly, her expression softening for a split second before the professional mask slipped back into place. "Mine too. The senior partners have political ties to Mr. Hargrove. A loss would stall my trajectory for years." She paused, stirring her coffee unnecessarily. "We used to talk about these moments, remember? Building careers side by side, supporting each other through the tough cases." The memory surfaced unbidden. Their tiny kitchen in the Morningside Heights apartment, Addison outlining her 5-year plan while Emily laughed and pulled her into a hug, promising that no matter what firm politics threw at them, their bond would stay private and unbreakable. That promise had lasted until Addison accepted the offer that required her to relocate temporarily for a client, a move Emily saw as the beginning of the end. "We used to talk about a lot of things," Emily replied, her tone edged with bitterness she could not fully suppress. "Then life happened." Addison's eyes flickered with something that might have been regret, but she quickly looked away. "Look, I'm not here to rehash the past. I'm proposing we discuss a possible settlement before this drags into a media circus. The boy doesn't need his parents' dirt splashed across every tabloid." Her suggestion carried logic, but Emily recognized the tactic. Addison's firm wanted to avoid a prolonged trial that might expose weaknesses in the father's financial records. Emily weighed her options carefully. Agreeing could show weakness to her own partners, who had already hinted that aggressive litigation was the path to her promotion. Refusing risked escalating the personal stakes. "I'll review the numbers tonight," she said finally. "But don't expect concessions. Your client has a pattern of behavior that the court needs to see." She stood, signaling the end of the meeting, but Addison's hand brushed hers accidentally as they both reached for their coats. The brief contact sent an unwelcome jolt through Emily, a reminder of touches that had once meant safety and passion. Back in her sleek apartment overlooking the Hudson, Emily poured a glass of wine and opened the case files. The Hargrove boys' drawings stared back at her from the evidence pile, simple crayon images of a fractured family. Her mind wandered despite her efforts to focus. She remembered the night Addison had first confessed her love during finals week, the vulnerability in her voice as she admitted fearing that their secret relationship would derail their ambitions. Emily had promised then that they would make it work, that love would fuel their success, not hinder it. Now, 5 years later, that promise felt like a cruel joke as she prepared arguments that could strip Addison's client of custody rights. The next morning brought fresh pressure from her firm. Senior partner Marcus called her into his glass-walled office, praising her opening but warning that the opposition was formidable. "Reed is ruthless," he said. "Don't let personal distractions cloud your judgment." Emily assured him there were none, but inside she wondered how long she could maintain the lie. Across town, Addison faced similar scrutiny, her partners demanding updates and hinting at bonuses tied to victory. The parallel lives they led now felt like mirrors reflecting the choices that had driven them apart. That afternoon, during a private mediation session ordered by the judge, the tension escalated. Emily presented financial disclosures showing Mr. Hargrove's questionable offshore accounts, and Addison countered with character witnesses who painted Mrs. Hargrove as emotionally distant. Their eyes met repeatedly across the conference table, and each time Emily felt the old pull, the way Addison's presence had once grounded her amid chaos. When the mediator stepped out briefly, Addison leaned in. "You're playing hardball with information I know you wouldn't have without digging deep. Careful, Emily. Some lines can't be uncrossed." The warning carried layers, and Emily recognized it as both professional advice and a personal plea. She met Addison's gaze steadily, We both crossed lines a long time ago. The words lingered as the session resumed, but the seed of doubt had been planted in both of them. That evening, alone in her office, Emily stared at an old photo hidden in her desk drawer. The two of them smiling at graduation, arms around each other in a way that looked friendly to outsiders, but meant everything to them. Ambition had cost them that closeness, and now it threatened to cost even more. The trial entered its second week with witness testimony that turned the courtroom into a pressure cooker. Emily called the nanny who had witnessed Mr. Hargrove's outbursts. Her questions carefully crafted to highlight instability, without crossing into hearsay. Addison objected repeatedly, her voice crisp and authoritative, forcing the judge to sustain several points and chipping away at Emily's momentum. Each objection felt personal, a reminder of how Addison had once helped Emily rehearse arguments in their living room, role-playing judges and juries until they collapsed in laughter. Now the laughter was gone, replaced by the cold calculus of victory. During a break, Emily reviewed notes in a quiet corner of the courthouse cafeteria, her mind replaying the mediation exchange. She had uncovered a detail from their shared past. A confidence Addison had once shared about a similar client case years ago that involved hidden assets. Using it now would be a betrayal of trust, but her firm partners had made it clear that hesitation meant no partnership. The moral weight pressed on her as she prepared her next line of questioning. When court resumed, Emily subtly introduced evidence linking the father's business practices to patterns Addison had once criticized in private conversations. It was not direct, but the implication landed, causing Addison's jaw to tighten visibly. Addison's cross-examination of Emily's next witness was masterful, exposing inconsistencies that weakened the mother's case. Emily watched, equal parts impressed and pained, recognizing the strategic mind that had first drawn her to Addison during their law school mock trials. Back then, their debates had ended in passionate reconciliations, kisses that sealed agreements and promises. Today, each point scored felt like another brick in the wall separating them. By the end of the day, the judge noted the mounting evidence on both sides, scheduling closing arguments for the following week. That night, Emily received a text from an unknown number, but she knew it was Addison. "Meet me at the old spot. We can't keep doing this in court." The old spot was a small park bench near Columbia, the place where they had first kissed under cover of night 5 years earlier. Emily debated ignoring it, but the internal conflict won out. She arrived to find Addison already waiting, coat collar turned up against the chill. "You're using things I told you in confidence," Addison said without preamble, her voice low and edged with hurt. "That asset trail came from our conversations, not discovery." Emily's stomach twisted. "It's public record now. I didn't break any rules." But the defense sounded weak even to her. Addison stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking until Emily could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "This isn't about rules anymore. It's about us. The boy deserves better than 2 lawyers tearing his family apart because they can't face what they lost." The words hung in the cold air, forcing Emily to confront the cause and effect of her choices. Ambition had driven her to dig deeper, but now it risked exposing the very relationship that had once been their greatest strength. They parted without resolution, each returning to their separate worlds of strategy sessions and partner meetings. Emily's firm celebrated her progress with champagne in the conference room, toasting her likely partnership, while Addison's team pushed for aggressive counters that could turn the tide. The power struggle extended beyond the courtroom, into firm politics where rumors of leaks could derail careers. Emily lay awake that night, weighing the cost of one more strategic move against the growing ache of seeing Addison's pain reflected back at her. The line between loyalty and survival blurred further with every passing hour. The betrayal crystallized on Thursday when Emily introduced the financial exhibit during redirect examination. The courtroom fell silent as the judge reviewed the documents linking Mr. Hargrove's accounts to questionable dealings, details that mirrored a conversation Addison had shared years ago about ethical red flags in corporate clients. Addison's face remained impassive, but Emily caught the flash of recognition in her eyes, the quiet realization that personal history had been weaponized. The judge allowed the evidence, shifting momentum firmly toward the mother, and Emily felt a hollow victory as the session ended. Outside, Addison waited by the elevators, her expression a mask of controlled fury. "My office." Now. They rode in silence to Addison's sleek downtown firm, slipping into a private conference room where the city lights twinkled through floor-to-ceiling windows. "You crossed the line," Addison said, closing the door with deliberate calm. "That information was never part of discovery. You used what I trusted you with when we were together." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, revealing the depth of the wound. Emily set her briefcase down, meeting the accusation head-on. "Everything I used is verifiable through legal channels. If your client has skeletons, that's on him, not me." But the excuse felt thin. She knew the truth. Her decision to pursue that angle had been driven by the partnership promise dangling before her. The same ambition that had once pulled Addison away. "You made your choice years ago," Emily continued, the words tasting bitter. "When you left for that Washington case instead of staying and fighting for us. This is just the consequence." Addison's eyes flashed with a mix of anger and sorrow. "I left because you wanted a perfect world where we could hide forever without consequences. I wanted to build something real, even if it meant risks." The argument echoed their breakup, the cause and effect chain that had led them here. Emily's fear of exposure clashing with Addison's drive for visibility and power. They stood inches apart, the air charged with unresolved emotion. But neither reached out. Physical comfort had no place in this battlefield. The confrontation ended with Addison's quiet warning. "If you push further, I will do what I have to. For my client and my career." Emily left the building with a heavy heart, knowing the damage was irreparable. Back at her firm, partners praised the exhibit as genius, accelerating her promotion timeline. But the praise rang empty. That weekend, Emily reviewed the case alone, seeing how each tactical win had eroded the last fragments of their connection. Addison, meanwhile, prepared her counter-strategy, her own partners demanding she match Emily's aggression or risk losing favor. The power dynamics of their firms mirrored the personal betrayal, each step forward demanding a sacrifice that could never be undone. Firm politics intensified as whispers spread through the legal community. Emily's senior partner pulled her aside after a strategy meeting, mentioning a sighting of her and Addison at the park. "Personal history with opposing counsel?" he asked pointedly. Emily denied anything beyond professional acquaintance, but the suspicion planted new pressure. A single rumor could unravel everything if linked to their past. Across town, Addison faced similar scrutiny when a paralegal noted her unusual focus on Emily's tactics, forcing her to double down on aggressive filings that painted the mother as unfit. The near exposure came during a late-night document review at the courthouse annex. Emily arrived to find Addison already there, poring over exhibits under harsh fluorescent lights. "We can't keep meeting like this," Emily said, exhaustion lacing her words. Addison looked up, her auburn hair loose for the first time in weeks, softening her sharp features. "Then stop using our past against me." Their conversation turned raw as they listed grievances, each accusation tracing back to the original split. Emily's insistence on secrecy versus Addison's push for authenticity within limits. The exchange left both women drained, the emotional toll compounding the professional stakes. Emily made another cold decision that week, withholding a minor settlement offer that could have shortened the trial and spared the child further pain. Her firm saw it as strength. She saw it as survival. Addison countered by calling a surprise witness whose testimony damaged the mother's credibility, a move that felt retaliatory. The cause and effect chain accelerated, each choice widening the rift. By Friday, the judge warned both sides that further delays would not be tolerated, setting the stage for closing arguments. Emily returned home to an empty apartment, staring at the city skyline, and questioning whether the partnership title was worth the growing emptiness inside her. Addison did the same in her own high-rise, the weight of ambition pressing down as she realized the woman she had loved was now an adversary she might never reconcile with. Closing arguments unfolded in a packed courtroom, the tension palpable as Emily delivered her final plea for the mother's custody, emphasizing stability and the child's emotional needs. Her words were measured, but her gaze kept drifting to Addison, whose expression remained unreadable. When Addison rose for her rebuttal, her voice carried the same passion she had once reserved for defending their relationship. arguing for the father's rights and painting a picture of balanced co-parenting despite the evidence. Each point landed like a calculated strike, the culmination of weeks of strategy born from both professional duty and personal hurt. The jury deliberated for 2 days, and when the verdict came, the mother received primary custody with supervised visitation for the father. Emily's firm erupted in celebration. Her partnership announced the same afternoon. Yet as confetti fell in the office, she slipped away to the courthouse steps, where Addison stood alone, briefcase in hand. "Congratulations," Addison said quietly, the word carrying no bitterness, only resignation. "You won. But at what cost?" They stood in silence, the city noise swirling around them, acknowledging without words the irreparable losses, the betrayals that had secured careers but destroyed any chance of rebuilding what they once shared. Emily watched Addison walk away into the crowd, the auburn hair catching the afternoon light one last time. The trial had proven that in the ruthless arena of ambition and power, every advance demanded a sacrifice that echoed far beyond the courtroom. True or false? In a world of power and ambition, love is always the ultimate sacrifice?